Hello and welcome back to the She Lives Purposefully podcast. This episode is so crazy because it is the first time that I am back behind the mic since July. Today is October 9th. And yeah, I haven't been behind this mic since July. We've had an awesome series with a bunch of my friends talking about what Jesus has been speaking to them about and pouring that back out onto you, onto the church. And we ended recording that series mid-July, I think. And then I had a baby. So today I am finally off maternity leave. I'm kind of so-so. I'll dive into all of it. But I'm here with my husband. If you're watching on YouTube, you already know.
What's up?
And we are going to be talking about the birth story. We're going to be talking about things from pregnancy, postpartum, and answering some of the questions that you asked via Instagram. So I'm really excited for this conversation, and I hope that you are too.
Yeah.
So without further ado, well, hi babe, how are you?
Hey. I just realized I was rubbing my eyes.
So it's funny that we're recording this today because I feel like we've had better days.
In terms of sleep.
So last night, our baby Donny. So my husband is Donny the third, and our baby is Donny the fourth.
Yes. We're calling him
well.
What?
Can I
say it? Yeah.
Yeah.
We're calling him
I don't know. Yeah. You go.
You sure?
Yeah, I think I just don't know what I'm calling him officially.
Oh, okay.
So
yeah, he's about 2 months, so we're still, there's a lot to figure out, but we're calling him Danito.
Which means little Donny in Spanish.
Yeah. So
I'm still messing with do I want to go little Donny, Donito, Donald,
full-blown Donald,
which I think is so precious.
Donald. Even you texted me today, Donald.
Yeah,
and I
it's
was like,
cute.
Whoa,
I know, I'm feeling it out.
Trying it out, but yeah, I'm calling him Danito most of the time.
Okay, maybe I'll go Donald this whole episode, see how we feel.
Okay.
We'll see what actually comes out. Anyway, Donald woke up every hour last night. He woke up 5 times between 12 and 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
Exhausting.
Do you see the bags
under my eyes? Super sleepy, but yeah. So it's funny that I feel like this episode's going to be a little delulu, maybe.
Yeah.
A little delusional.
Yeah.
But maybe not. Maybe we work best. I don't know. I feel like sometimes I work best when it's crammed.
It might make us feel a little more looser,
which is fun.
Loosey goosey. So
that's a fun vibe.
That is fun. But yeah.
But yes, so he woke up every hour. Earlier this week, he woke up once in the night. So I feel like it really is hit or miss. It's just
people at work. That's the number one question they ask. How's he sleeping?
Yeah.
And some days I'm like, oh man, we're good. He's outgrown the waking up every hour period of his sleep, and we got 4 hours last night, which was amazing. 4 hours straight.
Right.
And then days like today when I was in the office, I was like, he woke up every hour with a giant thermos of coffee next to me. So
yeah,
it really varies. I thought it'd be a more clear trajectory,
linear,
but yeah. But no, it is like the stock market, man.
we keep joking there's the 4-month sleep regression, and I'm like, he can't have a 4-month sleep regression if he doesn't
if there's nothing to regress.
There's nothing to regress from. So we'll see how that goes. What is that gonna be every 20 minutes? I don't know.
Yeah.
So sleep is hit or miss.
Yeah. But maybe we should rewind back.
Let's rewind.
Let's go back to the beginning.
I wish to put an edit in this part that's you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. A tape going back.
Maybe I'll try to do that. If not, I just didn't know how. So yeah.
I wrote it down a couple notes because there's the birth went by. Another thing you'll notice is I'm slurring my words because, and this has been happening at work on calls too, and I'm in sales, so I need to be a good communicator. Anyway, it's a rough time, but the whole birth thing went by in a blur, so I was taking notes to make sure I got all the details right. So
do we want to start with pregnancy, some of the pregnancy stuff
even
first?
Farther back? All right, let's do pregnancy.
So we won't draw it out so much and keep you here for 2 hours, but they're like, oh my gosh, I hope it's not even half that. But pregnancy, I feel like we get questions, I get questions. And so I kind of want to talk about a lot of it. And a lot of it too, we really saw the hand of the Lord through it, which was really cool. So I really want to talk about those things. And I really feel like I benefited from people talking about their pregnancies, their birth stories, the highs, the lows, all of it. And so I want to hopefully like have this episode be that for somebody else who either wants to be pregnant, is pregnant, all of it. So for pregnancy, for me, I think we kind of touched on this way back when we announced that I was pregnant. First trimester, super nauseous. I did not work for the whole first trimester. Praise the Lord. I'm so thankful that I was able to do that because I work for myself. I didn't work the whole first trimester. I literally could not be on the computer without like throwing up.
It's kind of amazing going through it because before pregnancy or anything like that, like you just have no idea what it's gonna do. Like I had no idea what it would do to you, and like you were like running towards the bathroom to vomit constantly. It felt like I was there holding your hair.
He was, and I wanted that. I feel like some people are like, leave me alone. I was like, be with, like, I hate throwing up. Like,
I've never seen you throw
like
up
fear.
either.
I don't know. Yeah.
It's like we went from 0 to 100 on that, where it's like,
yeah,
I never seen you throw up. I was like, and then I saw you like, throw up like 2-3 times a day, maybe sometimes, but yeah, it was rough.
Yeah,
it was rough.
So that was rough. I feel like that was a big chunk of the first trimester. Also anxieties too, first trimester. It's just very fragile. So you just, a lot of anxiety.
There was.
Second trimester was also a lot of anxiety. The whole pregnancy.
I think a common denominator
is anxiety. So if you're feeling anxious, you're not alone. I really was very anxious the whole pregnancy, and there was a bunch of different reasons. So first trimester, I think it's just a given. Like you just don't know, how if you're gonna carry the pregnancy, you just don't know anything. Like everything is very new.
Yeah.
Second trimester, I was having also. I'm just gonna go into it. I was having some hormonal level issues, and so there was fear with that, like if certain hormones were dropping too low, then like that could mean that the baby was not going to make it. And so even through the second and third trimester, so that was a big fear too.
What was the hormone?
Progesterone was and so too, like if you're listening to this, there's different thoughts on progesterone. Like, so half of the medical field basically is like, it's really important. And the other half is like, couldn't care less where your levels are at. So
we were getting both perspectives.
And that was,
which is really confusing,
really hard, which made me even more anxious, I feel like. So that was an issue. I also was having random pelvic pain, like way too early, and carpal tunnel. Do you remember that too?
Yeah.
That was second trimester. I was wearing a wrist thing. Yeah. Pelvic pain where like I could not walk. It was really hard to like walk. It was hard to sit up.
I totally forgot about all this.
No, it's crazy.
Wow.
Pregnancy was hard. It was a hard journey for me.
Yeah.
And then third trimester, which is what I really wanted to talk most about. I think it was on the cusp, like week 27, 28, which is like entering your third trimester, I think, if I remember correctly. We found out that I was a high-risk pregnancy. So again, I feel like I'm just going to share things because it helped me when other people did. Yeah. People. I found out that I had gestational diabetes. Sorry.
Yeah, finish your
thought.
Well,
yeah, we'll go into, gestational diabetes. That test is absolutely despicable. Despicable. That drink is disgusting also. And then that same week that I found that out, I also found out that I had cholestasis, which is an issue with the liver during pregnancy, cholestasis of pregnancy. And that is a really big risk with the baby as well. Basically, with cholestasis, there is a fear that if the pregnancy goes past like 37, 38 weeks, that the baby actually won't make it. And so there's just a lot of fear with that. You could be induced as early as 34, 35 weeks with that, just depending on your levels. And so with both of those things, my anxiety continued to skyrocket through the roof if it wasn't already high enough.
Yeah.
And I was going to the OB 2 to 3 times a week, and then also getting blood work done weekly for multiple different things. It just was a really rough journey. Pregnancy became a full-time job pretty much. Yeah. And on top of just like the emotional, mental aspect.
Yeah. And just to rewind too, because again, this is one of those things where if you don't go through it, you're like, you just don't understand. When I hear gestational diabetes, I'm thinking you're eating ice cream, lunch, breakfast, lunch, dinner, like you're like just eating like so unhealthy or whatever. And you weren't And that's the thing I learned is like a lot of women get GD with just as part of the pregnancy. Like they can just be eating totally normal and like nothing changes dietarily really, and you get it. So
it can be
it's just something I learned along the way.
It's hormonal actually, like it is.
Right. And so you're getting tested for that. She had a drink, which is funny because it's like to get tested for gestational diabetes, it feels like
you're drinking soda basically.
You give yourself diabetes because the way they test it is they want to get a baseline of your sugar levels in your blood, and then I think they give you this very sugary drink which skyrockets your blood sugar so that they can see, I guess, how well your body processes that sugar in your bloodstream.
Yes.
But the sugar drink is like, you said it was disgusting.
Oh my gosh.
Like she couldn't have anything. It was citrus flavored and she couldn't have any citrus after that.
Yeah. So I got tested the first time where you're allowed to eat and then you take it and you can't eat for an hour. And that's when I tested positive for GT. So then I had to get a second test. I had to go into like a LabCorp and get a second test. And so you have to fast first and then drink it. And that was, and then you are there for like 2 to 3 hours afterwards where you have to like get your blood checked consistently for those 2 to 3 hours.
And not eating during that time.
Not eating. I remember feeling like I was in this room.
I'm getting nauseous.
I almost was sobbing because I'm like, I'm going to pass out. I feel disgusting. I feel like I can't walk. I feel like I'm going to throw up. And it just is, I remember I felt like too, like all the blood it almost felt like it just was like escaping me. Like it just felt.
Nausea is no joke.
Man. It was disgusting.
It's the worst.
I have learned that you can request alternatives, which I will absolutely be doing next time.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think
what is the alternative?
there's a different type of drink that you can do. And then you have the opportunity. You have the alternative of, so if you get gestational diabetes, you have to be pricking yourself 4 times a day.
Which you were doing.
Which I was doing to see if you can be diet controlled or you have to be on insulin. So you can do that for like 2 weeks beforehand. I seriously would prefer, I would prefer pricking myself for 2 weeks, 4 times a day than doing that drink again. And I'll opt to do that if I can.
Yeah.
So I was tested positive for both of those things. And that was really terrifying because basically they give you like the worst case scenarios of what can happen with those. And having both of those combined, like one of those alone can be scary. So having both of those was really emotional.
I will say, being high risk, doors fly open for you.
Yes.
So if you're on the phone with an OB or whatever, and you say, my name is blah, 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 blah.
I have this concern.
I have a high risk pregnancy or I'm high risk.
Yeah.
They will get on it, whatever you request.
Yes.
So I will say that is the silver lining in all this is that like you had such great care. I feel like, you know, whenever you were in a medical setting, there was a lot of great care directed towards you.
Yeah.
And like, they're like, call anytime, let us know, please.
Yeah.
Like they
day
were on
or
top
night,
of
whenever.
it. And I feel like because a lot of women maybe who don't get that and they have questions or concerns and, you know, essentially I feel like they get told like, you know, if you're not bleeding, don't call. Or no, they don't say don't call, but like, you know.
No, because so I had previously in my second trimester when I had this intense pelvic pain, I felt certain things. I literally thought he's coming out. Like it's week 18 and he's coming. Like I was like, what is happening? It really was like insane, like pain and sensations. Yeah. To this day, like I feel like if I had felt that second pregnancy, I would still be really concerned. So I call the OB and I'm freaking out and was literally told, and we have switched OBs, so it wasn't, anyway, was said, do you feel like, is he coming out? Like, do you see him coming out? And I'm like, if I saw him coming out, I'm not sitting waiting on the phone with you. Like, what? That was the response that I got. So then fast forward to being high risk and I'm like, oh, like, I don't know. Like just, I have this little sensation and you say I'm high risk pregnancy. They really jump on it. They ask you a million questions. They're like, if you want to come in, you know, all of it, they really care. And I think my one thought from that whole experience too, is that the care that I experienced high risk should be the care that all pregnant women get without being high risk. It's crazy.
And, you know, it's on the one hand, it's like, I'm sure first time moms are super scared and like nervous, which is totally expected. And so I'm guessing these OBs get these questions all the time,
for sure,
which probably calluses them and to the question. And, you know, they can more easily brush things off. But it's like, this might be their 100th time going through this with a patient, but this is your first time and you have like no idea what to expect or what the baseline is, or so it's a lot. But yeah, I will say that is the silver lining, and no one wants to be high risk, but I will say you got a lot of great care from being high risk, which you should, but that should be the standard anyway. So
100%. And I will say, just in case we mention where we gave birth or anything, we did switch OBs between those two experiences of like me calling and then being like, is he coming out? Versus like when I was high risk, I was at a different OB. So, but too, with all of that being said, super duper anxious for weeks. And I feel like, though, I remember praying. I remember first finding out, and it wrecked me for 2 days. I didn't work. I think I just kind of sat there because I was like, I don't know what to expect. I don't know what's going to happen. Also, that same week, the progesterone that I had was like monitoring plummeted. So I was like, which basically also could mean that he comes early, like it's early labor. And I'm like 28 weeks at this point. And I just found out all of these things. It just was like such an awful week.
Yeah.
But we were really in prayer over it. And I remember a couple of days later just feeling, even though it was like still, it's on my mind, I remember feeling a lot of peace. And I remember people had been telling me that we had, told, they were like, I just keep praying like peace over you guys. And what's really cool is, and I want to preface this by saying like, just because we pray over something doesn't mean that the Lord's going to answer in the way that we hope. But I do want to talk about this and what happened with us, because the Lord is so awesome in what he did for us. I basically to cholestasis, based on what my OB said, it's like basically you get blood work done is how they know if you have it or not. And once you're at a certain level, like it doesn't reverse pretty much. It's super duper rare. It just doesn't reverse. They said it's not going to reverse. We just hope it doesn't get higher. And so we were praying about GD, we were praying about cholestasis, and over the span of the next several weeks, my numbers for cholestasis actually went back into a normal range. I still was being monitored as high risk, but if I had had those levels previously, I wouldn't have had cholestasis. Like they wouldn't have considered me high risk. It completely reversed. And with gestational diabetes too, my levels throughout testing the entire rest of the pregnancy were near perfect. And actually the dietitian that I was talking to basically was saying sometimes you can be maybe a false positive, we don't know, but she basically was saying like, it's kind of crazy that you have these perfect levels. And so I just wanted to say that too, because it's like so much anxiety. And again, just because we pray about things doesn't mean that they go the way that we want, but praise the Lord. I really just wanted to like give glory to the Lord that he really made miracles happen in this pregnancy, reversing something that doctors were saying does not reverse. And then having like near perfect levels for both things was kind of wild. And then too, so my progesterone, I actually, for different purposes, I was taking a supplement for it. I stopped taking that supplement. And my levels actually skyrocketed back up into a range that they had never been before, which was wild too. So it just was like, the Lord, I think, showing me, I really felt like the Lord was like, I go before you, period. Like, no matter what happens, I'm going before you in this, and I've got you. Like, no matter how anxious you are, I'm walking before you in this, and I will do what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And he did really miraculous things, which was really crazy.
Yeah, I do feel like the whole time we felt like the Lord was over it, like just in little ways. Like, like there was that, just little signs here and there that he was, and he is, but like that, I don't know, everything was going to be all right.
Yeah. I think too, another little sign that I felt was really cool, was I was preparing beforehand, like laying out everything that I needed to do with She Lives Purposefully before maternity leave. And I'm like, okay, I have all of June and all of July next, because my oh my gosh, the date that he was supposed to be born, due date, that's the word. The due date was
lingering baby brain.
August 8th. Yeah. Was August 8th. And so I'm like, okay, I have basically until then to do all of this work. And then I was writing it all out, and I'm like, honestly, like, I feel like, and there was so much that I had to do. And I'm like, actually, I'm pretty much finishing all of this up by like early mid-July. This is kind of crazy. Like, I was baffled that this was happening. And then I think the next week I had the appointment where I found out all of this stuff, and they were like, all right, we're going to have to induce you or early July. And it hit me later. I was like, oh my gosh, the Lord kind of, and it really felt miraculous because I had really so much to do for work that it would all be finished by that point. And it really felt like the Lord knew beforehand that I needed to be done by that point. And everything got done by that point. Like my schedule just worked out in that way. And then I found out I was going to have to be induced by that time. So it was kind of crazy. I don't know if I explained that well, if that makes sense. But,
yeah.
That was kind of wild. That was like a little way.
You were prepared for going on maternity leave sooner than you thought and he came sooner than we thought.
Yeah. So yeah, let's dive into
the birth
story.
Here we go.
Yeah,
all right.
You have it more laid out.
I have my trusty notes here because I wanted to make sure we had the timeline right.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. July 24th.
Dun, dun, dun. Which was 38 weeks for me.
Yeah, 38 weeks.
Because my cholestasis levels became amazing, they were able to not induce me until week 38 instead of like week 35, 36, even 37.
And it's kind of cool with induction is that you get to choose your baby's birth date in a way.
Kind of, yeah.
So, yeah, depending on what they have available, which we were able to do because...
Or how long it might take, maybe.
Right.
But you can,
Yeah.
Sort of, yeah.
Anyway, so, yeah, worked out. So, July 24th at 4:20 p.m., so I get done work. I think I'm working at home. I was working at home, I think, the last week or two.
Just in case
he came early. We thought, I feel like we were in, and maybe a lot of other people too are, but like we were in constant like on edge that he was going to come early.
Because too, with both things, GD and cholestasis, there's a risk
he could come early.
He comes early on his own.
Yeah. So we were expecting it a lot, but he waited for us to induce him into the world. So July 24th, 4:20, we stop at Five Guys, and on the way to the hospital, we get burgers, fries, milkshakes, the whole shebang. And this is because once you get induced, you cannot eat.
Which was news to me at 4:00 when they told me to come in. I was like, oh, I did not know.
So that's the trick, is like you got to stuff your face because who knows how long you'll... And, I've heard like you can eat. It's just like they don't want you to in case anything goes wrong and there's a complication. They have to like operate on you and, like they don't want food in your system. But, this is our first time, so we wanted to play it safe.
We're not risking anything.
We'll gorge ourselves. We get to the hospital, and I remember the nurse who was hooking you up was saying like, "Oh, you didn't, was talking about your diet. Remember this?" And you're like, or I think you were saying you were high risk, and she was like, "Oh, what did you have?" And you're like, "I, gestational diabetes or whatever." And she's like, "Did you eat before you came?" And you're like, "Yes." And she's like, "What'd you have?"
Oh, wait. Because, so I thought, I'm done testing.
Oh, that's what it was.
And so we go in and she's like, all right, we're going to have to,
GD, yeah.
we're going to have to test your sugars this whole time.
Meanwhile,
I had just had a milkshake, a burger, fries, and like burger, what is that starch? Like the bread turns into sugar. So you're
and then the fries, super starchy,
ketchup,
the milkshake, everything you had been avoiding for months, and now
I probably had a soda too. Who knows? Because I deprived myself, so I was like, I'm going in.
That's right. So they're like, we got to test you, and I remember we looked at each other. We're like, what is this test going to be?
I think I told her.
And then you're like, I might be a little high.
But I didn't tell her the full story.
Yeah. She's like, why? What'd you have? And you're like, I had a burger.
Stops there.
Fries.
Did not mention the milkshake.
Did not mention the milkshake. She's like, oh, I love a good burger. Anyway, turns out the blood test was not high.
It was fine.
Miraculous.
Yeah.
Praise
also,
God.
Speaking to, yeah.
So then around 6 p.m., you get induced. So what does that look like?
Oh, man, it's all a blur. I feel like induction, they basically just like you have a bunch of IVs and stuff, or an IV and all these things that are like going into that, and that was part of, they put Pitocin
Is the
in you, which is a
inducer agent.
The inducing agent. It's a, what's the word I'm looking for, a fake version, or you know what I mean, like a synthetic version
of what your body naturally produces. Right.
Oxytocin, yes. And so oxytocin is like this happy hormone, and it basically releases and it helps you go through labor and have this baby, and like motivates your body to do that. And so it's this synthetic version of that, is Pitocin.
Yeah.
So I went in again. I'm going in. So like into all of this, I
Sure.
went in at 3 centimeters.
Oh, dilated.
So, or 3.5. So they were like, all right, we're just going to put you on Pitocin because you can go into the hospital, I think at 4 centimeters. So I'm like right there.
And they put you on the smallest dosage of it. And then I think every 20 minutes or so, they were going to up it a little bit.
Yeah.
Throughout the night. Now we get there and the nurse offers you epidural.
From the get-go.
And we're like, nah, it's again, hilarious. We had a whole birth plan ready for ready to go. And we're thinking, oh, maybe like we'll hold off on the epidural or whatever. I don't know. And
which I did end up doing that. That's the only thing that I stuck to in my birth plan, was holding off on the epidural.
But you got it.
Yes.
She did the epidural.
No, but I held off on it.
Oh,
like I didn't
delayed
get it
it.
right away.
Yeah. Okay.
I know it's funny. First trimester, I contemplated a home birth and like ended up with an induction, epidural, like all the things.
So funny.
Just open hands, you know?
Yeah. But I remember her offering it, and you weren't in pain or anything, so we're like, oh, yeah, we're good. 10 p.m. I have You're Starving, which is 6 hours after.
Yeah, and she's like, here's some Jell-O.
Having the 5 guys, and so we were able to get you some Jell-O. I feel like you're a happy camper. And then the night goes on. I pass out on the couch. She's coming in to up your levels.
Pitocin.
And then I want to tell it from my perspective. I woke up.
Wait.
Oh.
At this point too, I'm having like contractions and I can see it on the screen and it's going pretty high, but I really was feeling like this is nothing worse than like a mild period cramp. Like I'm chilling. Yeah. Why do people get epidural? Like this is so
You're like,
low-key.
oh, this is labor. I'm killing it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then before you wake up, is that what you're going to tell?
Yeah.
She came in and she checked me and she was like, oh, you're only at 4 centimeters. Like I had only dilated 1 more centimeter over 12 hours.
Meanwhile, she had you on the highest dosage
at that point
of Pitocin.
I think I was on the highest dosage for 4 hours at that point.
And like not a budge really in your dilation. So around 7:30, I wake up on the couch and the doctor's in. And I hear the words, all right, we're going to break your water. And I'm, you're waking up, you're disoriented. You're like, what does that even mean? Breaking the water. Like, I know, biologically what it means. But what does it mean? He's going to do it. And he does it. And sorry, do you want to get into this?
Yeah.
I'm realizing I'm kind of getting personal.
Maybe in the episode description, be like, we're going in. I don't mind. I feel like it's helpful to hear it. So,
all right. Well,
maybe like not too descriptive.
So anyway, he breaks your water. It's a waterfall, and it's kind of wild to watch. Like you're, and this is not even birth. So and you go. He's kind of narrating it. He's like, "You're at 4, 5,
but wait,
6. Oh." And you're at 7 centimeters dilated.
Meters, imagine. So what had happened was that I was actually dilating, but my cervix was kind of sticking to like our baby's head. So I was dilating, but it wasn't actually opening because it was stuck. So what he did was he broke my water and then he unstuck that. And so I went from 4 to 7 centimeters in the span of 30 seconds, basically.
Yeah. And that's
when I understood why people get epidural.
That's when the pain kicked in.
Yeah.
And the nurse was there and she's like, do you want me to get the epidural for you? And you were like, yes. Mm-hmm. Like it was immediate, the pain.
Yeah.
Which is kind of wild.
Yeah.
And then we had a half hour of
before they came with the epidural.
Hardcore pain. It was like pain. I've never seen you in pain like that before. From 7:30 to 8 a.m. while they were getting the epidural ready. Mm-hmm. I think, there's an anesthesiologist that I guess makes the rounds, and it just took him half an hour to get to us.
Which I've heard is pretty standard. Like it can take a minute.
Yeah. I didn't know that though. So like, you're like, they forgot about us. My wife is dying.
And there's nobody else in the room with us at that point. Like everyone's
you're breaking
kind of
the bones in my hand by how hard you're gripping them. And like you, as a husband, you're just like, I don't know what to do. Like, what do we do? Like, I was kind of freaking out a little bit.
Yeah. It was seriously so painful. Like, I feel like you see in the movies and you're like, oh, this is probably dramatized. Well, you know what we're saying. And it's not. Like, it was so painful. And two, so basically I had gone from like 4 to 7 in 30 seconds. And I do think by what we're going to share soon that in those 30 minutes, I was dilating like way more, even like 7, 8, 9, like pretty much. So it was really like intense pain. And I've heard from many people, we had a doula, I've heard from like OB, like everybody, that when you get induced with the Pitocin, the synthetic version of oxytocin, the labor pains, the contractions are like even more painful than with like the actual oxytocin. So it's like a super intense labor that I was feeling. Yeah. So and it felt like it.
Yeah. And yeah, it was hard to see you through that. And then around 8 a.m., the anesthesiologist comes in, and it's kind of funny. He walks in like it's just another, when was our son born? Thursday?
Yeah, Thursday.
Just another Thursday morning. And he has this like, it's kind of like in the movies when you have like this fixer come and he like walks into the room with his briefcase and his glasses and he's like, all right, let's get down to business. That was like him. Like he walked in, he's like, all right, let's do this. Puts a briefcase down, flips it open, has all these like vials and needles and things like that. And he starts like flicking and unwrapping and like just getting it all ready, get the tubes in. And then you're going through waves of contractions meanwhile.
Too, from my perspective, I always imagined if you get epidural, like they give you the epidural in a lull of a contraction, which I think can be true. Maybe if you're at like 4, 5 centimeters, I don't know, because I didn't experience that. But whatever I was at by that point, there was really no lull. Like it would kind of get lesser, but it was still really intense contractions the whole time. It would just get really, really bad and then like bad. And they were really close together at that point too. Like the lull, quote unquote, was probably like 30 seconds to a minute. And so for epidural, you have to be hunched over and they put it in your spine or in your back. I think it's your spine.
Yeah. So this whole time we're kind of lying down, but they had to sit you up, turn you sideways so your legs were off the table.
The bed,
and you had to be hunched over and not move because they're sticking a needle in your spine.
So you are having like the worst pain ever and you can't move. And I, like, even on my period, like I need to be moving. Like I can't, like I'm curled up, I'm rolling. I'm like, I can't tolerate that kind of pain. And so with this, I'm like, how? And so the nurse, who was so awesome, she is like,
all the nurses are great.
Seriously, everybody on the birth team was so amazing. Yeah. Love. She is on top of me as I'm hunched over, like holding me down. She's petting my head. Like it sounds like she was like holding me down, like super intense. It was really sweet.
It's kind of like in church when you see like someone praying for someone, like they have their hands on top of them and like their heads are down. Like that's what it looked like.
And she's like petting my hair. Like she's like, you got this. Like,
I remember you asked, okay, like when I get it, like how long until I don't feel pain? And she's like, oh, like a minute or two. And
no. She said it like fully happens in 10 minutes. She said,
oh,
yeah.
Whoa.
I remember 10 minutes and then, yeah.
Okay. I thought I remember her saying just like a couple minutes, but whatever answer she gave, I remember I was like, oh, awesome. Like she's going to be out of this soon. Like she's going to be pain-free soon.
And I remember thinking, you're kidding. Like a whole 10 minutes.
I have to wait another second with this excruciating pain.
But thankfully, I think like once it happens, it starts doing its magic almost instantly. And then maybe it takes a full 10 minutes to like fully kick in or whatever. But like it started, like the next contraction I had was way better than the one previous.
And man, you were a happy camper. You're like totally different person. I have a picture of her like doing like this, like literally on the bed. Yeah, it's powerful stuff. It's fentanyl.
It is, which I didn't know until pregnancy. It is fentanyl. So, obviously this is not a medical podcast. I went into pregnancy thinking I'm not going to get epidural. It's fentanyl. Like I want to do this natural. So I'm not here to say like what anybody should do, anything like that. I will say I fully plan on getting it next time with just those 30 minutes of the real raw contractions. Like I'm not doing that again. But I know that people do. Like my cousin had given birth 3 months prior and she did the full thing. No epidural.
Zero epidural.
Absolute queen. Like I seriously am just in all of her. So it's possible people do it. She crushed it.
Yeah.
And people, there's pain-free birth, this whole thing. For me, I don't know how that's possible. And so I'm so glad that I got the epidural. That's my experience. And everything worked well with it for me. I know that for other people it doesn't. But I'm thankful that I did it this time.
Yeah.
And I probably will do it again.
Yeah. Yeah. It seems like it really did its thing. There's a reason people do it.
Yeah.
Great. All right. So around from 8:30 to, I'd say 9, you're on the epidural, you're chilling. Now what's the deliverer? What do you call the doctor?
Like the delivery doctor?
The deliverer.
I don't know if that's the...
Anyway, she walks in.
They had switched. So previously it was a guy who broke my water, and then I guess the shifts changed,
Yeah. And so this new doctor comes in, and she's like, all right, I'm going to check you out. And she's like, oh, you're fully dilated. Like, you're ready.
10.
You're ready to go. Mm-hmm. And we're like, what? And she's like, but I know you just got on epidural, so I'll give you an hour.
Let it's really get in there.
Enjoy it. Enjoy it for the next hour, and in an hour I'll come back and we'll do the delivery. So that was about 9 to 10 a.m. So at 10 a.m. the team starts to assemble. As people start coming in our room, they start going over what the process is going to be. We have our doula there, who's like also has lavender.
She was awesome.
Essential oil going, which is nice and relaxing.
her name's Rosalind. I should put her information in the episode description too. She was awesome. I feel like having a doula is so great. One, peace of mind. I feel like it's so helpful. And two, like she had the diffuser going. She was giving massage, like just all this different things. And it's just really awesome.
I remember I texted her when you were in that half hour of pain.
Yeah.
There. And
she was like, let me know when you want to come. Like, I don't want to come if you don't want me there yet. Like,
I was like, please come. Please come.
Yeah.
For my sake.
And she came right over. Yeah.
So it was great having her. But anyway, the whole team starts to assemble around 9 and
or 10.
Sorry, 10.
Yeah.
And then around 10,
yeah, you
start pushing.
Yeah.
Wow. And you push for how long?
24 minutes.
Oh.
Everyone was really impressed with how quick it was. So I'm really proud about that. No, but I honestly, not even like, I can't fathom pushing for a minute longer. Like I remember feeling like, and that's what they say, when you feel like you cannot anymore, that's when the baby's coming basically. And I really remember feeling as though I won't be able to push for another 2 minutes. Like I can't do this anymore. Yeah. And he came, which is crazy.
Yeah. Now the pushing is insane because like the whole, it feels like the whole hospital's in our room and they are kind of all, with good intention, but they're all screaming at you like, all right, push. And your face is turning beet red, like blood red. So, and it's like,
Here's the thing too, is I know for a lot of people with epidural, you don't really feel anything. You don't feel yourself pushing. You don't feel anything at all. And so it can be like a really like nice process. Like I've seen different videos where they're just like with the epidural, you're pushing and it just like happens. With mine, they put me on epidural and I had kind of a little bit of a negative reaction to it. So they lowered it to the lowest dose of epidural. So I was able to feel myself pushing. I felt all the pressure. I felt like different things. And I remember too, I was getting so hot. Yeah. And two, I know there's different, again, ways. I did so much research beforehand and everything went out the window on our own fault. Like it wasn't the hospital's fault, anything. Like I just basically forgot about my birth plan. So I pushed the way that they told me to, which I also would like to change next time. But it was basically just like push as though you're pooping, with all your might. And so I'm doing that and I literally start seeing stars. Like I was pushing so hard.
Yeah.
I am sweating. I am so hot. You said I was so red.
Yeah.
Like
she
blood
definitely,
vessels popping.
she popped blood vessels because even after birth, she was still like speckled red.
Yeah.
Like not like she was bleeding or anything, but like her skin, like she definitely burst some blood vessels there. But she's pushing and then I'm by her shoulder. And we went back and forth whether I was going to watch it or not.
Yeah.
The actual birth happened.
But you got to see it at the same time.
I did get to see it, and I'm so glad I did. So the doctor's down there, everyone's screaming at you, and then in the midst of everything, she's like, "He's got a head of hair," and I just remember like in that moment, it felt like
He's real.
He's real. Like, you know, he's real. You see the belly, like,
Yeah.
but just in that moment, it felt so surreal. Like, our son is real.
He's here.
And he's here.
Yeah.
And he's got a head of hair.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, man. So I think
that's when I really got emotional. I almost started.
Yeah, I think that was a good kick. And then around 10:34.
10:34.
10:34.
Yeah. Sorry, I was remembering something else.
Our son is born.
Yeah.
And he's pulled out, and he's put on your chest, some skin to skin, and then it's a blur. I feel like, you know, I keep referring to movies, but it's like that scene in a movie where like there's two people that are like still, and everything around them is like moving in a fast motion and blurry, and it's like that's how I felt. Like it was just like you two were my world, right? And it's just like this is crazy. And how did it feel when they brought him up to you?
Honestly, and I feel like it's probably good to share this too. It felt like a blur for me too. And I remember I still just felt so hot. I still felt like I was going to pass out. So it was like so surreal he's being put on me. But I really remember feeling like I don't feel okay. Like I feel like I'm going to pass out in any second still. And then gradually like I'm cooling off. And then it was like, oh my gosh, like I think it took a couple minutes because I was not, like I felt, you know, like I was unwell physically. Yeah. But then it was so crazy. Like he's on your chest and like he had latched and it just was like so wild.
And then they start, you know, doing things like I cut the cord. They weighed him. They, you know, all these different things.
And it was really sweet too, I thought, because I wanted a longer skin to skin time. And so they were like, okay, we need to like weigh him and stuff. And I was like, yeah, totally. But like I kept him on me and they kind of backed off, which I thought was really sweet. Like I feel like the nurse who had been previously like holding me down with epidural, like, you know, petting my hair, I feel like she kind of took a step back and like she gave us a good amount of time skin to skin, which was great.
Our doula was taking pictures, which was amazing.
Yes. Yeah. She's also a photographer, guys. Yeah.
And there was I got emotional at one point.
Yeah.
Just because I was thinking of my dad who passed away 2 years ago. And, you know, his name was Donald. My name's Donald. The son's name was Donald. So it's just like, wow, he would have really loved to be here. And got a chance to see his grandson. And just thinking of him as my dad, like me wanting to be that for little Donny here. And so people ask if I cried, and I cried. And that's why I was thinking of my dad and, you know, in that moment. And that was emotional. And I think too, I remember talking to someone at work about this, like you have your son there. And I remember thinking, I think I even said it out loud to him. Like I bent down and I was like, I'm going to be the best I ever could be for you. Like I'm going to be the best version of myself for you. Like, I don't know, just this weight comes over you. Like, I'm going to be your person. Like, I'm going to be the best I can ever be for you. Yeah. So it was a surreal moment. And, but like, thankfully healthy and, all good on that front. And from there, it was just like a blur until, we got home. I feel like it was just, Yeah. Anything you want to add on that?
Yeah, I'm just trying to, I feel like, remember it too, like everything that happened.
We were in the hospital a couple of days, so we were there 2 days, and I don't know if we want to get into all the, like, you know, I feel like we didn't sleep at all.
No, I feel like we didn't sleep at the hospital.
Just because
it started then.
You're so worried about this kid, and like just making sure everything's okay. And
I think that was the biggest thing for me. Like it was similar, like that weight of responsibility, but almost more fear based. It's like, oh my goodness, your life is in my hands, and that felt really big. And
this delicate life is in your hands.
It still does feel really fearful to me. I think like nightmares of different things happening. Like it is such a heavy thing. It's like, oh my goodness, this little life that is helpless, like I'm fully responsible for. Not like a babysitter, not a daycare, you know, worker. Like this is my responsibility, our responsibility. But you know, you really put that, it is your responsibility. And so I think it just instantly became really, really, really weighty in a really beautiful way, because that's like, you know, the next stage of our life is like being in charge of and responsible for like this gift that the Lord has given us.
It is a gift. Like stewarding that. Like he's on loan to us.
Yeah.
And
Oh my gosh, and he's the cutest little nugget, you guys. We're not, well, I'm planning on doing a whole other episode, like more Q&A, but we're not putting his face on social media, and we'll talk about that another time. But
yeah,
so we can't show you, but he's cute.
He's cute. And, you know, I think
everybody thinks their baby's cute.
Yes, and I thought, like, I don't want to speak for other people. Like, I was like, oh, he's such a cute kid. But of course we're going to say that because we're his parents. But we've been assured
that he actually is the cute.
That he is a cute baby. But yeah, he's amazing.
He's so cute. I'm trying to think of anything else from the birth story that I want to mention that I feel like would be even helpful for people.
Maybe if you have questions, we can, you know.
We do have some questions we're answering.
Oh. Yeah.
But
in
even
the future,
after this,
like in the episode, if you
comment on YouTube, Spotify, message me.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll answer more questions. That would be really cool.
Should we jump into the Q&A?
Yeah.
All
right. Let's do it. Wait, I have my phone here.
Q&A.
Okay. So the first question was, how is baby boy doing and how are you?
All right.
Baby boy is doing great.
Baby boy is gaining weight.
He is chunky.
He's a big boy.
He was born 6'13", like 6 pounds, 13 ounces. So he was on the smaller, not like too small or anything, but just like smaller end. And he's over 13 pounds now. Like he is gaining weight. All the doctors are like so ecstatic. He has acid reflux and colic, which has been really, really tough. But a huge concern with that is that he doesn't gain weight in general, like just babies across the board. That's a concern about acid reflux. And he's doing a great job. So it's not impacting his like long-term health at all, which is awesome. Yeah. He's just, you know, like in pain and stuff. But we've heard too that that's supposed to kind of potentially end at 3 to 4 months, colic. So we're almost at 3 months. We're at 11 weeks tomorrow, which is crazy.
Wow.
So we'll see. But he's doing awesome.
He's doing great.
So great. He loves the outdoors.
He's starting to smile, which is exciting because, you know, the first month or so, he's kind of just looking at you, and because he can barely see, but now like he recognizes you and like he'll recognizes our voices and like starts to like get excited and start like flailing
moving
around
like crazy. Yeah.
Now I will say he loves being held. He does not like being put down. I've heard other babies, like if they're tired, you can put them down or something, they'll pass out.
Yeah, like nap time is like you put them in the crib or bassinet.
Little Donito.
No.
Let me tell you. He if he's passed out on you, you know, and you're like, okay, this is my chance. I can put him down. I can do the dishes or I can take a nap myself. No way, Jose. 5, max 10 minutes later, he's going to wake up screaming.
Yeah.
So
yeah, not just I'm awake like screaming.
Yeah, he's like, "Where's my parents?" And so it's been a struggle.
But it's also like
you might wonder where he is right now. If we're recording, my mom's watching him and she's holding him.
Yeah, it's like also so sweet because you are obsessed with being able to snuggle, you know, and this is the time to do it.
Yeah.
But it's also practically like really hard because then you're just like with him feeding him, with him napping, and then like playtime, like you really are not able to like go and do like clean, cook, you know.
And everyone at work was like, oh, I showed them pictures and they're like, oh, cherish this moment. It goes by so fast. Cherish it. And like, I totally get that. Like, definitely want to be cherishing this, but it's hard because, you know, sleep, not a lot of it happening. Holding him all day is draining.
Mm-hmm.
And you're breastfeeding, which is very draining. Maybe you wanted to talk about that.
Yeah. Yeah, I do think, and I just was actually talking to a friend this past weekend. I think a lot of moms that I talk to like have, which is so awesome, like these happy babies that like you can put down in their crib for a nap, and like, and every journey of motherhood is like hard, and you know. But I was talking to another mom this past weekend whose baby also had colic really, really bad, just like our little Donny does. And we were just really like talking about how it's like this extra dose, it feels like, of hard.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to vocalize that. And I think that that's okay. It doesn't mean that you know, like we are the most obsessed with this little nugget. Like he is the best thing in this whole world. But it's okay also that it's hard and it's a whole journey and you're learning, and like, it's just this process. And I was actually talking to another mom friend this past week too. There's right now a social media sound that's going around on reels and stuff, and it's just talking about how like motherhood isn't a sacrifice because like you like get to do all of these things. And I think that that's really beautiful in some sense because all of it is I get to like I get to care for this little guy. But just like anything, like it is a sacrifice. Like
For sure.
just like marriage, you're sacrificing, you are, what's the word, compromising different things. Like in motherhood, like you're sacrificing who you were as a whole, like your whole life before. You're sacrificing freedom, you're sacrificing sleep, all this stuff. And it doesn't mean that it's not like a good thing and that you would do it all over again every single day. Like, you know, you want to because you are so in love with this human, but it is a sacrifice. And I think it's okay to say that.
Yeah. Especially, well, I wouldn't say especially, but like coming home from the hospital, those first couple weeks, a lot of tears. Just because it was hard adjusting. And I think that's maybe people don't expect that or something like that, but it's, you know, it's part of the process. And,
Yeah.
and two, what is it? You're hormonally like you're off the chain. Like,
Yes.
what's going on?
So basically, I think what it is that during pregnancy, it's as if theoretically you're on like 100 birth control pills, right? And then in the span of the first like 2 days, you drops down to like nothing. And so your hormones they just drop, they plummet, and everything's fluctuating, everything's changing. And also you're sleep deprived. And also, you know, like
Your anxiety is at 1,000.
yeah, there's so many different layers to it.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So we had praise the Lord. We had, an amazing meal train, that her mom put together, and people from our church signed up and they brought meals. And again, this is one of those things where like before pregnancy, if I had thankfully I took a month off for paternity leave. My company gave me a month, and I would have thought, oh, you know, the husband's home, he can do the cooking. Like they probably don't need a meal train. Like,
Yeah.
and wow, I couldn't be more wrong. Like it was such a blessing to have people drop off food because it was tough. Like,
Yeah.
like I thought, oh, you're home all day, you're off. Of course you're gonna have time to cook and clean and do all these things. And it's like,
Learn a new language.
like I literally was like, oh, you know what? We haven't put together there's like, we went to Italy and like a couple other things. Like I was going to put together a photo album and I was like, oh, I'll have time. I have a month off, of course. And it's like, no way. Like,
yeah.
it's one of those things where unless you've gone through it, I feel like you don't really, you know, understand the full breadth of it. And so anyway, so thankful for our church
Community,
doing that. And yeah, it just speaks to the blessing of being in a community. And it was a beautiful thing.
So yeah, all that to say, baby Donny is doing great. Mama's doing great also. I feel like you said, the first couple weeks are rough. Like, and I think a lot of it is a tough journey. Like breastfeeding was a really tough journey too.
Yeah.
Being transparent about that too. Like I went into motherhood being like, all right, he is going to be exclusively breastfed. And right out the gate, that didn't happen. There was just some things in the hospital, even that they gave him formula for. And so from the beginning, like we were supplement feeding with formula. And that was something that was really frustrating for me at first. And then it just was kind of like, again, open hands and just like learning and understanding firsthand, like fed is best. And like, yes, breast milk is so powerful. It is insane.
Yeah.
But like, there is such a physical and emotional and mental toll that can also, doesn't always, like for some people it's really easy, but like it can come with breastfeeding. And it was a really big journey for our family. So right now, really cool. Like he is being exclusively breastfed, but like, I don't know how long that'll be. Supply, that's not how we started for weeks. That only started happening a couple weeks ago. And so I also just wanted to vocalize that too. I think it's helpful if somebody's listening and you're struggling in that area to like, fed is best, you know, and you're doing the best you can for this little nugget.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I feel like it's definitely a journey, but I am good. And yeah, I think really navigating like pretending to have a schedule and I really don't at all. Like,
thankfully our parents live in the
Praise.
area. Your sister's around. My sister and her husband are around, and it's a blessing.
Such a blessing to have family around.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've been good.
Yeah.
All right. Next question.
Go for it.
What would you tell the young ladies who want kids but are so scared of the whole process? I would say, from a birth perspective, I have been terrified my whole life to give birth. It is easily one of the scariest things of like that I was anticipating happening, and it's just like I'm absolutely scared to do this. Honestly, and thank you to epidural for it, I guess too, but like was not nearly as frightening as I anticipated it being. And I will say, like, obviously you are pushing, it is so intense, like all of it. But like, I remember just feeling like, how am I going to get a human being like out of me? Like, how is that going to happen? And not that you don't put in all of your effort and work into it, but like it just happens. Like you're pushing, but I'm like, how am I going to push hard enough that a whole baby comes out? Like it just, like your body does it. Like it just does.
And there's also, if it doesn't, C-sections, you know what I mean?
100%.
So it's praise God for modern medicine.
Oh my goodness.
And all its miracles around birth. Yeah. So
praise the Lord. Yeah. For like minds who came up with different things. And yeah, it's just amazing. Modern medicine is awesome. But yeah, I feel like it was not as terrifying. And who knows, like I know too, I think our birth story was actually comparatively really easy compared to a lot of birth stories. Yeah. So I want to like say that too. I know
only
that
24 minutes.
There's a lot of birth stories that are really a lot harder. And maybe they're listening to me scoffing at like what I just said, you know what I mean? Which is valid. Like that it, you know, it just happens, or quote unquote. I will say like my pregnancy was really hard. Postpartum has been like, you know, definitely a journey, and like the Lord has shown us time and time again that he goes before us in all of it. And that is such a comfort. I know for me, like knowing like, okay, God, who has been with me since I was like a child. Like I remember being homesick at sleepovers and feeling like, okay, God is with me, you know? And he's the one who's with me now. Like, and he's the one who goes before me in all of this too. So, it's like, if that is what the Lord has for you, and if that's something that you want, like the Lord is going to go before you, and he's going to walk through it with you. And that would be my encouragement. Like if you're scared about it, totally valid that you're scared. It's a whole new responsibility. To birth is like a scary, you know, journey. Like it's a new thing that, you know, if it's your first time,
the hardest thing your body's going to go through.
Yeah. Like probably. It's really intense. But it's doable, and people do it again and again and again and again, you know? And like
people have done it for generations and thousands of years.
And like the Lord will equip you. And it's not to say like, you know, people say like the Lord won't give you more than you can't handle. Like he will, but like he'll be what you need in it, you know?
Yep.
And it's such a beautiful thing. Like if that's something you want, that's something the Lord gives you. Like it's such an amazing thing to like be a parent and be responsible for another human, and to get to like raise them and like care for them. It's so worth it.
And I feel like the world really hates kids. Like, I feel like there's a lot of, I don't know, promotion of, you know, the freedom of not having a kid. And there is definitely a season for that, I think. But man, it is, as much as it's hard, as much as it's a lot to go through, it is a beautiful thing. And like you were saying with marriage, it's like, there's, I think, I don't know if freedom is the right word, but like, you know, having these good constraints on your life. So like we're married, you know, like that's a constraint, but it's a good one. And it's going to like excel your happiness and your purpose and all these different things. Same thing with a kid, where it's like, it's a big constraint on your life, but same thing, like it's going to, there's so many blessings that flow from that the Lord is going to use. And so,
I think that's a really good comparison, because it's like with marriage, for example, you're not hooking up with anybody, you know, like maybe you were before, which you shouldn't have been before, but like maybe you are, you know what I mean? Like marriage is this new like constraint, but like there is so much beauty in that constraint, like you were saying, and there's like even more like joy and happiness in that. And I think too, that's something that the Lord actually like has, like he, you know what I mean? Like he doesn't have people hooking up all the time, like around whatever, but like marriage is a blessing from the Lord. And same thing with like kids. It's like, okay, yes, maybe there is this whole new lifestyle that you now have to enter. And like, no, you can't just like be out with your friends until like midnight or whatever. You know what I mean?
Not
like
even close to
not
midnight.
even close. Like you're falling asleep at 8 before your baby is like,
Yeah.
but like there is so much beauty and like this is a good thing that the Lord has. So it's like having that mentality I think is important too.
Yeah, for sure. Is there anything else?
Yes. How was the delivery experience? Hoping to be pregnant soon and a little nervous. I feel like we really went into that.
I think we touched on that.
But I will just like reemphasize, like, again, the Lord goes with you. I was so nervous. So nervous.
It is kind of wild to think you have that hanging over your head your whole life.
Your whole life.
Like guys we don't have that.
Yeah.
So, it's not something that's hanging over us, but
Yeah.
for women, for girls, it's
it
like,
really
wow.
is. And I know some people aren't. Like, I really was nervous my whole life. And I will say too, and I remember somebody saying this to me previously, it's kind of crazy. By the time that you're supposed to deliver, like you are so ready to be done with pregnancy that like you are ready for delivery. Like I was like, let's go. So like, trust me, I feel like the nerves will very likely go away. And if they don't, again, the Lord is with you in it. He is with you in it 100%. But I feel like for a lot of women, by the time it rolls around, nerves go away because you are so over the way that you feel pregnant.
Yeah. All right. What else we got?
Okay. So the next question is, how long did it take for you to heal after having a baby? I think that's a great question. I've always been really curious about that postpartum too. I definitely was healed up by the 6-week mark.
And that's they schedule an appointment at 6 weeks.
Yes.
So you get checked by a doctor.
6-week appointment.
Make sure everything's okay.
I was definitely healed by that point. And again, postpartum healing, like there's the physical, there is the emotional, mental, all of it, hormonal. So like, I'm not really talking about like your hormone balances, any of that, just kind of like physically where I was at. And it is different for everybody, but I was healed by the 6-week point. There were,
Say it.
Why not? So I got really bad hemorrhoids from birth, and they tell you to push like you're pooping, and so that's what happened. Like I got really, really bad hemorrhoids, and so for me, I also got a 2nd-degree tear, and for me, the hemorrhoids, like I did not even feel the tear, didn't even feel it because the hemorrhoids were so painful and so bad.
Nobody talks about the hemorrhoids.
Nobody talks about the hemorrhoids, so I'm going to talk about it. They're the absolute worst. The thing that helped me. There's all these different things. Do this, do that, do this, do that. The Preparation H wipes, really awesome. And 2, actually, it's a lavender essential oil lotion from its company called Just, Just. You can get it on Amazon. Like when I started using that, my hemorrhoids went away like that. Like it was so, so, so good. So that went away probably within 3 weeks, I think. But that was the actual worst part for me. And I really didn't even feel my tear because that was so bad. So, and I'm assuming the tear was healing along the same time, but I didn't even feel it.
You go in thinking, oh, I don't want to tear. I don't want to tear. I don't want to tear. But I didn't even know hemorrhoids
Me neither.
were a thing with birth, but they are, it makes sense. And
that was the worst part for sure.
Yeah.
And not everybody gets them, but I did. So yeah. How have you been navigating postpartum? Is there a scripture for postpartum that you use?
These are such thoughtful questions. People are really checking in.
Yeah. Postpartum, I feel like has been for the most part good. Donny alluded to earlier. Like I feel like the first couple weeks there are a lot of tears.
Yeah.
Really, it's hard. And there's multiple reasons for it. It's the hormones, it's the sleep, it's the anxiety, it's like just a lot of it's the crying, like, that you're hearing. There's a lot happening. It's the pain, everything. But I feel like outside of those first couple weeks, it's still hard. There's a lot of changes like in life that have happened, but I definitely feel like I'm doing okay. I wouldn't say that I have, I think it's important to say what it is and what's not. I definitely don't think I have postpartum like anxiety, depression, things like that. But I will say that it has been tough. And versus specifically, I honestly don't have something specific for postpartum. I will say that I have been clinging to the fact that like the Lord is with me in my day to day, and like he gives me the strength that I need. And it's not that he doesn't give me what I can't handle. It's like, sometimes it feels like I can't handle this. Like I got no sleep last night. I'm supposed to care for a human all day. Like, but the Lord is the one who gives me what I need.
I will say one thing that I've found that makes it a lot better is people.
Yeah.
Because you are cooped up.
Yeah.
Like, you can't really walk well. You are feeling all these things. You don't want to go out because your baby, you know, you don't want him getting sick and all these different things. He's so new to the world. You don't want to, I don't know, like, there's so many things. So you're cooped up in your house, your apartment. And I remember, like, I think a weekend, like, we hadn't seen anyone, or, like, not that we hadn't seen anyone, but, like, hadn't really connected with anyone. And I think at one point we were just like, all right, we got to go over to your parents and, like, see family, like,
Get out in some
we
way.
we need to get out. And I think that has been a constant thing that has been helpful throughout this process, is because you are cooped up. It's a lot. Like, your whole world is your house. Like, and then we found getting out, going on walks, connecting with people has been the biggest thing that's helped.
Yeah. And I think too, I remember seeing so many different posts on social media where it was like, don't feel like you have to see people, like, you can say no to people, all this stuff. Like, you know, it's your little, like, newborn bubble, and, like, cherish this time, just you guys. And there is totally space for that. And it's not like you want to see people all day, every day.
Right.
But, like, at the same time, like, sometimes you need people. And, like, we definitely felt that, like, where you're like, you just either want the extra support, you want to interact with people, whatever it is, you want to have a conversation that is not about diapers, like, you know, and, like, what color poop it is, like, different things like that.
Yeah.
So I totally agree. I think that's really helpful. And just really clinging to, like, the Lord is with you in it. I will say too, I want to say transparently, like, I think spending time with the Lord has been really hard for me in this season because of lack of sleep, because of lack of schedule. I am such a morning schedule person. I love having my morning routine, and I don't have that at all right now. Like, that's gone out the window. So that's been a really hard thing for me. And so it's looked like kind of pivoting what that looks like, listening to Devo podcasts, listening to worship music, like listening to sermons, different things like that. Because again, most of my day, like 75% of my day, is either breastfeeding or contact napping where he's on me. So I'm not, like, journaling or, you know, like, opening, you know, a lot of times, like, my Bible, like, in one hand, or, you know what I mean? Different things like that. So it's been a lot harder to do those things. And so pivoting what that looks like, I think, is okay in different seasons.
Yeah. I kind of think of it like you have to find different inputs into your life. So, like, before, the input was, like, I imagine, like, someone plugging, like, you're connecting to God. Like, the input was sitting down with your journal, your Bible, your cup of coffee, like, peace and quiet.
You have a good amount of time.
And it's like that. Okay. That's unrealistic now. So how do you get those inputs now? And it's like, yeah, audio, listening to podcasts,
listening to the Bible, even, like, you know, it's
yeah.
a different way too.
So there's different ways you have to find it, you know, input those spiritually.
Yeah. Because even though it is hard, it is vital. And I think that's something too, the first couple of weeks, transparently, like, I was really lacking in this area. And so, like, just really feeling and recognizing, like, no, I need it. My soul needs more of the Lord. So it's like, okay, that can look different than it did before, but it needs to happen in some way. Yeah. So yeah, I feel like that would be my answer for that. Cool. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I wanted to say, but I feel like that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
If you guys have more questions, please comment again on Spotify, YouTube, DM me, anything.
She's back, baby.
She's mostly back. We're going to see. I feel like that's a whole thing too, is, you know, I work for myself and I work from home, but also we are not, like, I'm taking care of Donny. So we're not bringing him to daycare, anything like that. Amazing if you do, if you can, you know, but we're just not doing that. That's just not happening right now. So we're going to see what work looks like. Realistically, I have no idea. I thought that I would be like, oh, I'll work when he naps. But again, he contact naps. So
yeah,
we'll see.
But this was fun.
This was awesome.
It's fun being back.
It's back. That's crazy.
I'm honored to have been part of the first episode back. And, yeah, it's good to have you back in the saddle, Meg.
Yeah, this is good to be here, you guys. Thank you so much for listening. So thankful too for all my friends who were a part of the maternity leave series. If you haven't listened to those episodes, go and do that. Seriously, each and every one encouraged me so much. And I'm excited to be back to in this routine and like having these episodes, answering Dear Meg questions, like all of it. So I'm super stoked. It's great to be back. I love you guys so much, and we'll talk with you next time. Live for Jesus, live purposefully. I love you, friends. Bye.
Bye.